The Philadelphia Eagles have spent the entire offseason executing a high-stakes tactical reset on defense. While the overarching scheme remains consistent under Vic Fangio, General Manager Howie Roseman has aggressively remapped individual roles across all three levels of the depth chart to address structural inefficiencies from last year. This was a calculated adjustment designed to isolate specific leverage points and turn this unit back into a premier defensive identity. To truly understand how this machine operates, you have to look directly at the interior defensive line, because these guys are the primary anchors of the defense. Fangio's system famously prefers to run light boxes to limit big plays downfield, a strategy that falls flat unless you have absolute monsters controlling the trenches. Jalen Carter remains the premier explosive catalyst up front, operating as a true pocket collapser who forces quarterbacks to flush early right into the perimeter rush. Right next to him, Jordan Davis acts as the immovable object that makes the light box math viable, freshly backed by a massive contract extension to absorb double teams and anchor run support loops. But the real structural breakout belongs to Moro Ojomo, who exploded into a foundational force with a heavily increased rotational workload, flashing high-end interior pass rushing. On the edge, this pass rush unit is meant to be among the most formidable in the NFL, attacking in waves to keep the interior pressure constant. The acquisition of Jonathan Greenard changed the outlook for this group in a massive way, providing a dominant physical presence that sets the edge against the run while demanding consistent attention from opposing pass protection. Sophomore edge defender Jalix Hunt holds an incredibly intriguing analytical ceiling for sudden, disruptive big plays. He achieved a rare franchise milestone last season by pacing the defense in both sacks and interceptions. Because Hunt possesses a unique fluid safety background wrapped in an edge rusher's frame, Fangio utilizes him as a highly variable chess piece inside simulated pressure looks. And rounding out this high-end rotation are Nolan Smith Jr. and Arnold Ebiketie, who provide explosive rotational speed to keep the pressure relentless throughout 4 quarters. The secondary dictates the leverage for the entire defense. So before we hit those 2 main inside linebackers, we have to see how the coverage shell is clearing space for the second level. The structural dynamics have shifted into one of the most uniquely flexible shells in the NFL. It centers around Quinyon Mitchell, who acted as an absolute eraser on his boundary island on his way to earning AP First-Team All-Pro honors. Because Mitchell completely deletes an entire half of the passing game, newly signed corner Woolen is going to face an absolute avalanche of targets. Woolen brings elite length and blistering speed to the perimeter, giving him massive opportunities to log dense tackle production in space and jump routes for sudden interceptions. This elite boundary lockdown is the exact domino that allows Fangio to execute the biggest tactical adjustment of the spring with Cooper DeJean. DeJean was started deep safety in standard base formations, but the second the defense sub-packages into nickel, he drops right down into the slot. And this hybrid utilization maximizes his click-and-close tackling efficiency while securing a full snap share across multiple structural packages, locking down an incredibly dense tracking baseline from the secondary. Rounding out the core rotation are the inside linebackers, where Zack leads the group with extreme operational urgency. Baun's position is entirely secure, especially after the front office restructured his contract into a high-incentive setup. And because the defensive line commands so much attention up front, blocking schemes rarely get clean climbs to the second level, filtering immense volume directly to the off-ball spot. When mapping out his utility, Baun represents both the absolute safest floor and the highest ceiling on the entire defense. At his baseline, he acts as a locked-in starting anchor who erases the intermediate middle of the field in coverage, but his ultimate ceiling is a dominant, game-wrecking all-pro threshold where he can simultaneously anchor the box and disrupt the pocket. He is joined by Jihaad Campbell, who remains a high-priority structural piece for the 2026 defense despite a shoulder procedure in March that has limited his physical workload during spring installations. With Nakobe Dean departing via free agency, the organization has left the starting inside linebacker spot wide open for Campbell to claim alongside Baun. So once he completes his rehabilitation program for late July training camp and scales towards a starting workload, the raw volume available inside the middle of Fangio's coverage shell guarantees an immediate impact.